We need toys in our caterpillar room, and you need to avoid that truck. Why don't you come on back, join our family again?
This isn't a family, it's a prison. You're a liar and a bully, and I'd rather rot in this dumpster than join any family of yours.
Jesse's right. Authority should derive from the consent of the governed, not from the threat of force.
If that's what you want.
Okay, just like Barbie was saying there, the early first Americans to write the Declaration of Independence thought that the authority of government should come from the people. And that ties into our keyword democracy today. Hopefully you've gone to Canvas announcement and downloaded this document today. This video will walk us through what we're going to have on our note sheet and then set you up to create your sketch notes. First thing we're going to do is going to take a look at a little bit of a video that I'll embed in this recording that's going to tell you a little bit about this belief that the colonists have as they move forward into something new. Government that's based on the power of the people.
Well, the most obvious way that consent is present in our political practice today is by elections.
The American Revolution, with its rallying cry of no taxation without representation, was based on the idea that government gets its just powers from the people. This principle is known as consent of the governed. We take this principle for granted today, but the idea that a free people could rule themselves was rare in a time when monarchs had been making claims to greater and greater power. They claimed that this power over others, or sovereignty, was granted by God. In response to the growing appetite of monarchs for more power, many began to argue that the only just government power was that which the people had granted. This doctrine is clear in the Declaration of Independence. Political theorists, including John Locke, proposed that people come together voluntarily to form a community. They agreed to go from a state of nature with no ordered society to establishing protections that government can give, the security of their life, liberty, and property. Consent of the governed is also known as popular sovereignty, in contrast to monarchical sovereignty or the claimed divine right of kings to rule.
So basically what they had said for a long time was that kings ruled because God gave them the right to rule, not for any other reason. Kind of flipping that in what will become the United States.
Government derives its just powers from the people. The famous phrase from the Declaration, all men are created equal, meant that there were no natural rulers among people. No one, not a king, not a queen, not a duke or baron, was born with the right to rule over others without their consent.
The most important thing for citizens to understand is the relationship between consent on the one hand and freedom and equality on the other. Now, we say that legitimate government requires the consent of the governed. But why? Why consent? Well, we can say, why shouldn't the wise rule on account of their wisdom? Or why shouldn't the religious rule on account of their piety? The answer is because we're all born free and equal. I can actually explain this by using a different example. All bees are not created equal. There are worker bees by nature and queen bees by nature. And the worker bees don't hold elections to make the queen bees queen. Born queen bees by nature. Well, that's not true among human beings. There are no kings by nature, no queens by nature, no workers by nature. We're all equal by nature. And that means government among equals, since we're equally born with the right to rule ourselves. Well, that means when we institute government among equals must be by consent.
The British colonists in North America believed that they had reverted to that theoretical state of nature when the King and Parliament repeatedly refused to protect their rights as Englishmen. They instituted new governments in their states, on the national level with the Articles of Confederation in 1781, and then again with the Constitution in 1789. They did so in all cases not on the basis of conquest or claimed divine right, but following processes based on the consent of the people.
Okay, so it's looking like a total brand new place. And here's what you want to add into your notes for today, everybody. As you got your document here, here's our definition of democracy. Go ahead and pause the video for a moment to get your notes down. The form of government in which the people give the government its power. Pause the video for a second and get your notes. All right, moving on. Where can we find this exact line? Democracy, really, in the exact line in the Declaration of Independence. Well, I pulled up the document here as you can see it in front of you. Take a look at this for a second. Where does it talk about the people giving the government its power? Did you say line 5? If you thought line 5, you were right. Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The people give the government its power. Jot that down in your notes right here, especially the text that's in red. Pause the video for a second and record your notes on your document. After you finish doing that, skip ahead to the bottom part of your document and take care of your sketch notes for today. Be sure to write your example at the end.